Yo guys, what's up? Welcome back to a new video. So, a lot of people, and I have been one of those people in the past, have wondered like how powerful a machine should I get? And today I thought I'd talk about it a little bit because Apple has the widest selection of computers they ever have, and yeah, which one should you actually get? So next to me I have my 2015 MacBook Air that I got back in high school, and of course on my desk, as you guys know, I also have a fully spec'd MacBook Pro from 2019, 16-inch. Those are very different machines with very different price points. This costs $1,000. That computer over there costs $6,000. And that's a big price jump for a lot of people. And I will admit it, it is kind of disturbing when you're looking at devices and the prices are that high. So what do you actually need then? Well, Apple has not made it easy. So let's look at what they have and contemplate, especially with the new introduction of Apple Silicon. How cheap can you go and still get a workhorse machine? Let's get into today's video. Alright, so first of all, let's just look what Apple has. If you hear a lot of background noise, I have my windows open because it's so nice out today. So let's see what Apple has that they're offering. So I'm going to start a screen recording here. Come on, rotate back. There we go. And I'm just going to do a quick screen recording. I'm going to put the Apple Store. Apple Store. Okay, so of course here we can see their new watch bands are advertising. But let's scroll down to what we're here for. You can also see my entire line of Apple products, which is disturbingly long. 2 iPads, 2 Macs. The iMac isn't in here more because it's so old. An Apple Watch and a phone. So yeah, okay, let's look at their Macs though. So right off the bat, we see, this is their lineup. A lot of products, a lot of price points. We have the Mac Mini that starts at $699. You can really see that the reflection, $699. Then we have this one here, which starts at $6,099. This one, which starts at around $1,299. This one starts at $1,299 as well. We have MacBook Pros, MacBook Airs, and then we have the other Macs. So, actually I think I messed all that up. Okay, whatever. Let's just go. So, let's start with the least expensive, and then we'll work up to the most expensive. Let's get into it. But first, we'll get a little more light going. Alright, so what is their cheapest? Well, their cheapest that they're offering is the Mac Mini is $699. Now this is a desktop computer, so it means you're going to have a power cord to make it run. You're going to need a keyboard and mouse, which I believe you can get with... Oh, nope, you can't. Okay. For a second, I thought you could get the Mac Mini with a keyboard and mouse, so no, that's another price on top of there. And then you need a monitor. Now then, that's for $699. So, let's just build one of these real quick and throw it in a cart. So we're going to do what I would consider speccing this, because, I do a lot of video editing. Obviously, you don't need like a complete powerhouse. But, personally, I think more is better to a point, because it future-proofs. So I would get the 16 gigs of memory. I would probably, since this is a desktop computer, that means you can have a lot of external storage plugged into it 24/7. So I would either stay at the 256 or 512. I'll probably bump it up to a 512, so it's only $200 more. Another $1,000. You don't need 10 gig, and then there we go. So, yeah. So let's just add that to our bag. No Apple Care because we're careful with our stuff. And then we're going to need a mouse, a keyboard. So. Now this is $100, so I would, if I was building this, I would not get an Apple keyboard or an Apple mouse because I could get an MX Master 3, or I could get like my gaming mouse I have, which is from, I forget, but just like a quick mouse for like 20, 30, 40 bucks, Bluetooth mouse, Bluetooth keyboard, and I could get all that for under the price of this keyboard here. That's $100 that Apple's quoting for $100. Okay, so that is how I would spec a Mac Mini. $1,000, not bad. Now, let's go over to their next cheapest, and that's the MacBook Air. Now, again, as I said, I have the MacBook Air from 2015. It's got, an SD port, USB, and Thunderbolt. and then it has headphone, USB, MagSafe. These new ones do not have all those ports. So let's just look at this cheapest one they've got for $9.99. I'm surprised they still have these priced at $9.99 because you're getting a lot. And here's actually where, I mean, all these machines I'm going to be putting in the car are M1 machines. And I'll talk a little bit about the M1 chip in a little bit. So let's go back to speccing a MacBook Air. So again, I'm going to say 16 gigs of memory. Now this is a laptop, so I always encourage people to spend the money because you don't know. Like a Mac Mini, you can get 256, just plug a bunch of stuff in. But a laptop, which are inherently more expensive, you need to future-proof because you don't know what you're going to be doing, and having extra storage is really good. So for this, I would say 512 or a terabyte. And for this build, just for the sake of money, because I mean, I'm in college, and if you're in college too, then you probably don't need a ton of storage because in your room you can't plug it in. So I'm going to say 512. Now this is getting expensive. We're at $1,300. Yeah, and so obviously you don't need anything else. So that's a $1,300 laptop. That's what I would get. Again, mouse and keyboard are on the computer, so you don't need anything. And if you want a monitor, you can go and price one of those separately. Do not get a Pro Display XDR. Okay, next for price, we can either look at the 24-inch iMac or the other laptop. Now we just looked at the MacBook Air, so let's just go ahead and look at the MacBook Pro. Now, they have, of course, 13-inch, 14, and 16-inch variants of this computer. Each one is the M1 chip now. However, their cheapest, which is a 13-inch screen, similar to the MacBook Air, is the same price about as what we put in the cart. So let's just go ahead and price one of those real quick. So again, I'm going to say 16 gigs of memory just because that really helps the machine. 512, nothing else. Add to bag. So this comes with a touch bar, which it's overrated, but that's fine too. Okay. Now if I really wanted to ball out, I would get a 14-inch, which starts at $2,000, or you get a 16-inch, which starts at $2,500. We're not going to do that because we're on a budget here. Okay, let's look at the 24-inch iMac. Let's go into the desktops again. So obviously, this is their new replacement for the 21.5-inch iMacs, if you remember those, which you could actually get a decent computer-ish, but towards the end, you were getting 1080p screens and dual-core chips. Originally, well not originally, a couple years ago, you could get a 4K 21-inch with a quad-core what was it? I think it was an i5 or maybe even an i7. I don't think you get an i7 up to like 2 terabytes of storage. And that would have been an okay machine, but towards the end they cut those and it was back down to like the school computers. So the 1080p screens, the dual core i3s, the 256 gigs of storage, boring as beans, computers nobody really needs to be buying. So this is really the replacement. This has the M1 chip. It's a 24-inch, 4.5K Retina screen, which is great. 1080p webcam, stereo speakers, all that. So let's just do a quick price of one of these. Again, 16 gigs, 512. Because this is a desktop, actually, we're going to stay down at that 256 because this has the ports on the back. Now then, this computer we have here actually only has 2 ports on the back, and that's okay. So we can have one to plug in to charge our stuff, and then one to plug in for our peripherals, such as like the drives we're talking about. And that's okay, because I mean, as a college kid, you're probably not going to have that many drives, or you can just plug it into a Thunderbolt hub like I have over on my desk right over there, as you've seen in some previous videos. So that actually is how far I'm going to spec that. So 256 gigs and 6 gigs of memory. Done. Now let's just talk about their higher end one. We're not going to put one in the cart. We're just going to price one. This is $2,000, but again, this gets you the 4 Thunderbolt ports on the back, which is also good for future proofing, I guess. Let's talk about their second oldest machine that they sell, the 27-inch iMac. Now I have one of these at home, except mine's 11 years old now. So let's just look at our cheapest one, which is not cheap, $17.99. Okay, so we have here our 5K 27-inch iMac. Nano texture, you don't need it. Even if you're in a bright room like this, you can see the reflections on my glasses here, or even on this screen you can see the reflection. This is a nano texture matte finish screen protector I have on here. It doesn't cut them all, and Apple's of course is better than the $30 screen protector I have, but you can always just re-angle your computer away from the light, and spending $300 when you can re-angle your computer or the room you're in, not worth it. Okay, so here, this really can jump up in price. As you can see, we can get 128 gigs of storage, or of memory, excuse me, for $2,600. Now with a computer, this is a much more powerhouse computer, and so I'm going to say bump that up to 32. I know this is expensive, but again, if you're looking at a brand new iMac, you're willing to cash out. So I'm sorry, you're just willing to cash out. Yeah, so why don't we get to pick our storage? Oh right, this is the base model. So this will have a predetermined amount of storage. It's kind of weird. Don't know how much it actually is. Let's check. Okay, 256 gigs of storage. Okay, yeah. So I'm actually going to keep that actually at 16 because this only has 256 gigabytes of unupgradable storage. Kidding, 32. Yeah, and we have a Magic Mouse too. I would not get a trackpad unless you're doing a lot of video editing like me. I would love to have a trackpad, but sometimes you just can't afford that kind of stuff in life. Yeah, so now we have the 6-core, 3.1 gigahertz, 32 gigs of memory, and 256 gig storage. Now, if you have the money for a little bit better machine, I'm going to suggest you upgrade to the $2,000 machine. Yeah. So again, keep that as 6-core, 32 gigs of storage. Bump it up to a terabyte. I know that's $200, but if you have a terabyte of storage built in, it's going to increase your read-write speeds and performance of the computer, because macOS takes around 30 gigs of storage, like including apps and everything. So once you have that, then you'll have still probably, you know, a couple 9-ish hundred gigabytes for other stuff, and it allows you to have a lot of apps, but also massively increases your read and write speeds. So I'm gonna keep that bumped up to that terabyte. Now then, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Mac Pro. Do you need it? No. Does anyone need it? Not really. This machine is built for Hollywood, and Apple decided to market it to the entire world. You're going to get an 8-core, you're going to get 32 gigs of storage, you're going to get a Radeon Pro, you know, we're just going to bump up to that one. And we're going to give you a terabyte of storage. And yeah, I mean, you're already at $7,000. You don't need this. And I swear, if you get the Pro Display XDR, you need psychological help. But you know what, we'll throw it in $5,000. Pro stand, no, we're getting a Vesa mount. Okay, so there's your $12,000 Mac Pro. Yeah, and we're not even going to do that. Now then, that is how I would price those machines. Let's look at our card for a second. I don't know how to look at my card. Bag, 10 items. Lovely. Okay, so let's just run over this again, and then we'll actually talk about computers. So we have our $7,000 Mac Pro with the $5,000 screen and the $200 base amount. You don't need this machine. Let me reiterate. Unless you do 6K video editing, I would say 8K, because I can do 6K on my MacBook Pro. If you're doing 8K and you're doing a crap ton of graphic stuff, consider it, maybe. Or honestly, get a new M1 Max MacBook Pro and hook it up to a nice display. That's going to be faster probably because it's an M1 Max chip and a heck of a lot cheaper. So just consider that. Then we have the 27-inch 5K iMac. $2,800, it's not cheap, but it's also not insanely expensive, and that's a good machine. We got 6 cores at 4.8 gigahertz boost. We got 32 gigs of storage memory. We got a passable graphics card, terabyte of storage, not bad, gigabit even. Okay, cool. Then we have the Baller Edition here, or sorry, the Beginner Edition, and that's just the 3.16 core, 32 gigs of storage, 256 gigs of storage. This is what I would say you should get if you're in college and you really want an iMac. Now, why would you get an iMac if you're in college? Well, they're great. They're 1-core, plug and play, you're done. They're beautiful machines. They never break. And they're just good. Then we have what I would actually recommend if you're wanting to get an iMac for college, the 24-inch, get whatever color you want, with the M1 chip with an 8-core CPU and 7-core GPU, 16 gigs of memory, 256 storage, and 2 Thunderbolt. Again, one could be for charging and one could be for a storage peripheral or USB hub like I use. Then we have the 13-inch MacBook Pro with the M1 chip, 16 gigs of memory, 512 storage. Again, this is future-proof because this is not upgradable, and if you're on the move, there's no way to really easily plug stuff in. Now, you could get a Samsung T5, which is what I do a ton with my own computer, just for quicker read and writes and backing up stuff on the go, but that's even more money on top of that. And then we have the 13-inch MacBook Air with 512 storage. Again, I think 512 is a sweet spot. I ran out of storage on this computer once I started doing video editing in about 2 weeks. And so I think just having extra storage is key, just for on the go. Because if you run out of storage on the go, you're out on the road, and you have no way to continue what you're doing. So just having a little extra storage while you're on the road, key. Then we have the Mac Mini. Again, this is our cheapest computer, and this again is a 512 unit. Again, I could go down to 256, and I probably actually would, because that's going to save you some money. But again, that's just going to increase your read and writes. So we're obviously not going to buy any of that. But let's just talk Apple. Apple computers are great. I would highly recommend them, because I will link some stuff below of some just going through and looking at performance of the M1 chips that are in the Mac Mini, MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, and 24-inch iMac that I put in our cart, because this chip is weirdly powerful for how cheap you can get it. And they're kind of doing themselves out of a little bit of a market with that, because if you take an M1 and you slap it in something, it's going to outperform basically anything else. So that's why I would really recommend starting, or just seeing if you can find someone to borrow an M1 machine from, be it a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, an iMac, a Mac Mini, and just play around with it and see what you think. Because with these machines, these are really allowing people to get the cheapest machine possible, and it perform better than, you know, my $6,000 computer over there. So yeah, you do not need to spend $6 grand on computers these days. You can spend a couple grand and get the same, or not better, if not better performance. And also, these give you insane battery life. My computer, it'll run about 8 hours on a battery. These things are going 12 hours plus on their batteries, especially the new 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro. Those things can go around 24 hours on a battery, is what Apple's quoting. Now, in reality, that means it's probably more about 15, but, actually, I think they're quoting 18. So that probably means you can get around 12, but still, if you're just like surfing the web, that's going to be fine. Again, if you're video editing, these are so freaking efficient with their battery. Yeah, so thanks for watching this video. I'll probably do a part 2 about this, too, just to recap and talk about pricing a little more, or maybe just specs. So with that being said, be sure to follow me on all my social media. Links are below, along with that Patreon if you want to go over and support. As cheap as $1 a month. It helps so much. It really helps me be able to afford things for the next videos, and it just helps me with photography and music as well. So with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Be sure to follow on all the socials. I'll catch you around. Peace.